The question on everyone's mind right now is what exactly is going on with Anthony Volpe in the Yankees? Is this finally the end of the road for him in New York? Is 2025 going to be the last year we see him in pinstripes? Or could he somehow stick around for another season, or maybe even land somewhere else in 2026? It's hard to make sense of it, because when you look at his raw numbers, there's a strange mix of power and inconsistency that doesn't fit neatly into any pattern we're used to seeing. Volpe ended this year hitting just .206, which is clearly below league average, but he also managed to belt 19 home runs and drive in 70 runs. On the surface, that kind of power looks impressive. Combine that with 29 doubles and 4 triples, and you're looking at over 50 extra base hits in total, which usually suggests a player who is having at least a moderately productive season. Yet somehow, despite all that extra base pop, his OPS was a mere .661. How do you even reconcile numbers like that? It's one of those statistical anomalies that makes you scratch your head, because typically, players who hit that many doubles and homers are putting up OPS numbers well above league average. The fact that Volpe's is so low tells you something deeper is going on, something beyond just bad luck or a small sample size. There's clearly a problem with plate discipline, with getting on base, and with consistency over the course of a full season. When you break it down further, the picture only gets murkier. Over his last 28 days, Volpe played in 22 games and hit just .133 with a .383 OPS. In the last 14 days, over 11 games, he was slightly better at .200 with a .564 OPS, and even over the final week, 5 games brought a mere .118 average with a .294 OPS. Those numbers are not the kind you expect from a young shortstop who was once viewed as a cornerstone for the team's infield. To make matters worse, while the raw power is there, it has not translated into the kind of all-around production the Yankees would hope for from a player in his role. His defensive contributions, which were once the reason he could stick in the lineup despite offensive struggles, also took a hit this year. Volpe finished the season with -8 outs above average, a metric that had never been negative in his major league career before. For a player who was relied upon to be steady in the field, that's a serious red flag. His fielding run value was down, his batting run value was poor, and while he did manage 16 stolen bases, being caught 7 times makes that contribution less impactful than it seems on paper. The narrative of Anthony Volpe has always been about potential and flashes of brilliance that never fully translated into consistent results. Year after year, fans and analysts have seen moments where he looks like the player he was projected to become, only to follow them with extended stretches of underperformance. And now, entering his 3rd full year, it's hard not to wonder if the Yankees are finally ready to say enough is enough. Reports from rival executives suggest that the team is seriously considering moving on from him this offseason, a step that would not shock anyone given how the season unfolded. Even voices inside the organization, including some of the most respected figures in the game, acknowledge the challenge. Derek Jeter, who remains an iconic figure in Yankees history, offered some perspective recently, reminding everyone that struggling players have to persevere, endure the boos from the crowd, and keep working hard. It's encouraging to see that kind of support from teammates and the front office, and it shows that Volpe isn't facing this alone. However, the reality remains that encouragement alone cannot offset declining performance, especially when a player is entering a pivotal stage of their career. The issue here is not that Volpe is young. He is just 24, but that this is year 3, a point where the organization and the fans expect to see measurable growth and development, especially offensively. Instead, what we've seen is a continuation of the same inconsistencies that have plagued him throughout his career. There's no denying that Volpe has tools. The bat has shown flashes of power, the glove can be effective when he's locked in, and he has some speed on the bases. Yet the sum of his contributions this season left much to be desired. And in a league as competitive as Major League Baseball, consistent underperformance in multiple areas can no longer be overlooked. Adding to the scrutiny is the internal competition. Players like Jose Caballero have emerged as potential alternatives, particularly when it comes to covering shortstop. Caballero leads the majors in stolen bases and has demonstrated the ability to hold his own defensively, making him a legitimate option should the Yankees decide to reshuffle their infield. The contrast is stark. Volpe once had the defensive edge that justified keeping him in the lineup despite offensive struggles. But with negative fielding metrics this season, that justification has all but disappeared. And while there's always hope that a player can turn things around, the consistency just hasn't been there. In many ways, Volpe's season exemplifies the challenge of evaluating young talent in professional sports. Raw ability is easy to see, and the flashes of excellence are impossible to ignore. The hard part is determining whether those flashes can translate into sustainable success. At 24 years old, entering the third full season at the major league level, Volpe is at a crossroads. Teams can be patient with younger players, but there comes a point where patience turns into tolerance, and tolerance can no longer justify a spot in a highly competitive lineup. The question for the Yankees isn't just about whether Volpe can hit for power. It's about whether he can provide the kind of complete, reliable production expected from a starting shortstop. When a player hits 19 home runs and still manages to post a .661 OPS, you realize that raw power alone is insufficient. Baseball is a game of balance, and Volpe's numbers this season underline a fundamental imbalance between his contributions and the team's needs. To compound matters, his plate discipline remains an issue. Drawing walks, making consistent contact, and minimizing strikeouts are all essential components of a productive offensive season. Volpe has struggled to generate walks, recording just one in his last 22 games, which has a direct impact on his on-base percentage and overall value to the team. The combination of these factors paints a complicated picture, a young player with undeniable tools who is failing to convert potential into consistent performance. Meanwhile, the Yankees, like any competitive organization, must weigh the risks of continuing to invest in a player whose development appears stalled against the potential upside of giving him a change of scenery. It's a delicate calculation, balancing hope with reality. Even if Volpe receives support from the organization and teammates, the statistical evidence is hard to ignore. 3 years into a major league career, with over 1,600 at-bats, a career OPS of .661, and a history of inconsistent performance, the data suggests that the Yankees might be justified in considering alternative options. As the offseason approaches, the debate around Anthony Volpe intensifies. Fans and analysts alike are questioning whether the Yankees are prepared to make a decisive move or if they will give him another chance to prove himself. The numbers from this past season are hard to ignore, and when you dig deeper, it's not just about batting average or power. It's about the overall contribution to the team. Volpe's OPS, fielding metrics, base running, and plate discipline collectively signal a player who hasn't lived up to the expectations set for him when he first arrived on the major league scene. The power numbers remain tempting. 19 homers, 29 doubles, and 4 triples. But raw power can only carry a player so far when the underlying metrics show clear deficiencies. He's a player who can blow the lid off a game with one swing, but those moments are sporadic, and a lack of consistency weighs heavily on the team's decision-making. Over 3 seasons in the majors, Volpe has shown flashes that keep people hopeful, yet the trajectory is concerning. Year after year, you expect a young player to show incremental improvement, to turn flashes of potential into sustained performance. But in 2025, instead of building on previous seasons, Volpe regressed in several areas. Defensive metrics are crucial, particularly for a shortstop, and a negative 8 outs above average is alarming for a position where reliability is a premium. Even when you factor in his offensive production, the numbers just don't add up to the type of value the Yankees need from a starting shortstop. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially for fans who have followed Volpe since his early days, rooting for him to break out and solidify his role. The reality is that potential is never a guarantee. Major League Baseball is ruthless, and the Yankees, despite their patience in the past, cannot afford to allow repeated underperformance to linger. Reports indicate that rival executives believe the team is prepared to move on from him, a sentiment that makes sense considering the trajectory we've seen. Internally, the pressure is also mounting. Jose Caballero's emergence adds a new layer to the discussion. a player capable of leading the league in stolen bases and holding his own defensively presents the Yankees with a clear alternative at shortstop. It forces the organization to confront the question, is Volpe the best option for the future of the infield? The comparison is stark. Volpe once had defensive prowess as his main argument for retention, but with metrics sliding into the negative and offensive performance lagging, the justification is weak. Even supportive voices within the organization, like Derek Jeter, emphasize resilience and persistence, reminding Volpe and the public that struggling players must continue to work through challenges. But while moral support is essential, it cannot substitute for performance on the field. Baseball is a results-driven sport, and the numbers speak louder than encouragement. At 24, Volpe is not washed up, but he is at a critical juncture in his career. This is year 3, the point where the league expects clear signs of progression. Stagnation at this stage is a warning signal. The Yankees must balance hope with pragmatism. Giving a player time to develop is one thing, but if performance plateaus, the organization has to explore alternatives, whether through trades, internal promotions, or acquisitions. The question now becomes whether Volpe can adapt, make adjustments, and elevate his game to meet the demands of a major league starting shortstop. Plate discipline has been a recurring issue. Over his last 22 games, he managed only a single walk, which severely impacts his on-base percentage and overall contribution. When you combine that with inconsistent batting and negative defensive metrics, the picture is clear. Something needs to change. It is understandable why the Yankees, or any team in a competitive league, might consider moving on. Baseball is a game of margins, where a difference of a few points in OPS or defensive runs can decide the outcome of a season. Volpe's contributions, while featuring moments of brilliance, do not consistently swing the needle in the team's favor. The internal discussions must revolve around long-term planning and the future composition of the roster. Shortstop is a position of tremendous importance, and the Yankees cannot afford to have ongoing uncertainty there. Even a managerial perspective adds weight to the conversation. Aaron Boone, while known to support his players, faces the difficult position of evaluating performance without bias. Numbers don't lie, and Volpe's numbers suggest that the past 3 seasons have been underwhelming in terms of sustainable contribution. The dilemma also highlights a larger point about evaluating young talent. Scouts, executives, and analysts often see tools and potential that may or may not translate to consistent success. Volpe's flashes of power, moments of defensive brilliance, and speed on the bases create hope, but baseball is unforgiving. Inconsistency will always draw scrutiny, particularly in a franchise like the Yankees, where expectations are sky high. Another factor is the changing landscape of the team's roster. As new talent emerges, competition intensifies. Caballero's rise and other potential internal candidates mean that the margin for error is shrinking. Volpe is no longer guaranteed a starting role by default. He must earn it, and the lack of consistent performance makes that challenging. Evaluating Volpe also brings up the question of player development strategies. Are the Yankees pushing him appropriately? Are adjustments being made in coaching and approach to facilitate improvement? While these questions are valid, the end result is what matters on the field, and the end result this season has been lackluster. Beyond the individual, the team's overall performance impacts the narrative. The Yankees had struggles beyond Volpe, particularly in the bullpen and other facets, which complicates the analysis. But even in a struggling team, every player is expected to contribute effectively. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. Whispers are swirling through the baseball world as one of the biggest potential shakeups of the season looms. Gerrit Cole, the ace pitcher long synonymous with New York Yankees dominance, is reportedly on the move. Sources close to the matter suggest that the Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers have quietly discussed a blockbuster trade, with Cole potentially heading west to join a Dodgers rotation already brimming with talent. While neither team has made an official announcement, the rumor mill is running wild. The Yankees, seemingly prepared to embrace a full-scale rebuild, may be ready to part with one of their most reliable arms in exchange for a haul of prospects and young talent. Insiders hint that New York is eyeing a longer-term strategy, pivoting from immediate contention to stockpiling assets that could keep the franchise competitive for years to come. For the Dodgers, the addition of Cole would represent a statement of intent. Already one of the most formidable rotations in the majors, Los Angeles could be looking to solidify its chances for a deep playoff run with the acquisition of a proven ace. Cole, known for his overpowering fastball and relentless competitiveness, could slot seamlessly alongside other stars in a pitching staff built to dominate both in the regular season and the postseason. Fans and analysts alike are buzzing over what this move would mean for both teams. New York would be signaling a willingness to gamble on the future, potentially giving young players room to grow while reshaping the roster for sustained success. Meanwhile, the Dodgers could be sending a message to the league. They are all in, and no cost is too high when it comes to chasing another championship. While it remains to be seen if this trade will actually come to fruition, the mere possibility has ignited intense speculation across social media and sports media outlets. Conversations about potential prospect exchanges, salary implications, and clubhouse dynamics are dominating headlines, leaving fans on both coasts eagerly awaiting confirmation. If Gerrit Cole does indeed trade pinstripes for Dodger Blue, it would mark one of the most significant player movements of the decade, a shift that could redefine the balance of power in Major League Baseball. Until then, the rumor persists, feeding the imagination of fans hungry for the next big shakeup in a sport never shy of surprises. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.